computer. All right, so again, what I'm going to do here is I've got I've got a front view, a 3/4 view, and a side view. And then I have this paper, it's actually called, it's like vellum. It's for markers, and it's really helpful because you can put things underneath it and then draw over it. So what I will do then is I will, it's really important that I'm drawing in 3/4. So if you don't want to start in 3/4, what you can do then is take this, figure out how you're going to position it, right? So I'll do something like this where here's a front view, top view, side view. Again, I have not prepped on this in terms of what this is going to look like. So let's put it right here, get that in focus. And then we're going to just draw on this, right? So let's just say that I'm drawing a helmet here. So I've got this shape. And so then what I can do then is, let's get this kind of centered here. All right, so then what I can do is I can use this as a template. So I've got this, so I can start thinking about what does my helmet look like? So again, I've not really prepped for this other than I'm just going to start. And so this can be very helpful in terms of just getting yourself going. So remember, you're going to have a cushion around this head. So you can lightly put it on if you want. Remember, there's foam padding that goes on there. But like if I was designing the time trial helmet, I might be doing something like this. All right. So it's actually a little longer, but it can help you with your proportions, right? So it just can be very helpful in terms of how this works. All right, chin strap and such. So maybe it comes down a little farther. All right, so then I got to transfer that to the front view, right? Coming down the side, what's that going to look like? So each page would ideally be the same design that you're doing. So, good way of kind of starting the whole concept. And, maybe I've got a visor coming down here. Maybe I've got some sort of radio communication device, right? Here's my goggles. So this helps because what we would do is, if you remember when we did the, if you ever did that utility knife activity or anything in Fusion, is we can take this then, and we would take this, and we will take this and then take it into a 3D modeling software. And as I said, once you get into the computer, it's not about design anymore. It's about execution. So an orthographic view can be extremely helpful as you're designing. Trying to, so maybe I've got a vent in here, or maybe I got a little camera. I decided I was going to incorporate a camera lens into this, right? Or headlights. So, I'm figuring this out as I go along. I can incorporate these things. So certainly not aerodynamic, but I've got some things going on here. And so this is the place to figure it all out. The computer is not the place to figure this out. It's too much. You lose very quickly. You'll notice that when you get into the computer, you lose all sense of proportion. And so this is where you need to figure out all this kind of proportion, what works well, and then then you can take it to the computer, and we're going to look at different sorts of we have the ability to simulate a wind tunnel and things like that. All right, so there it is. All right, it's not nothing awesome. Maybe I'll put some vents in here.
Mr. Smith, I have a question.
Yeah, hang on, please. Daniel, just hold that thought for one moment.
It's all right.
So the question is, well, could you use clay? Clay is awesome. I have found, I had a friend, and I shared this before when I was up at in my college, RIT, and I could not draw people for the life of me. And Chris Tenez, who ended up going to Ralph Lauren as a designer, he finally said to me, just get a photograph. What's the big deal? Take a photograph and use that. So there is nothing a matter. And so, Daniel, I guess what I'm saying is it's so much easier just to find something and use it as a template, right? So that's kind of what I'm doing here, right? So then what I can do, continuing on here, so I'm putting little vents in here. this is the place where you really want to try to figure out the aesthetics and proportion. Again, because it's very hard to do once you're in the computer, just extremely hard. So then, looking at here, got these vents. And again, I'm just kind of doodling here. I'm not really sure what this thing's going to look like, right? So once I get this, all right, so I'm going to need a little bit more room for my 3/4. I can start to play around with, well, what does this actually look like in the 3/4 view? We've got this chin strap and this, let's put that back here. So, and I'm going rather quickly here, but these can be very helpful because if you're not careful, what happens is you have a really good design, but your drawing is so bad that you can't even convince yourself of the novelty of it. So this process can be extremely helpful in terms of trying to hammer out what the aesthetics are. And again, all I'm doing is just copying something that's existing. So now I'm looking where the ear is. So it comes kind of over the ear here. So I want you all for this exercise just to do something very basic like I'm doing. So then I'm gonna draw my helmet in this manner. I know that it comes down a little bit below the ear. It kind of forms back. So it's important. I realize that there's space here. I'm working around this space and I'm sketching, and then it's going back a little bit, but I don't really see it because it vanishes back there. And then I've got this portion that comes up and over, right? Something like this. And again, I haven't really given this much thought. All right, so, and then I got these vents in here. So I'm just, again, I'm doodling, but I'm doing it in terms of, I have a good context in terms of where I'm getting inspired from. So this head can be very helpful underneath. And again, this is not something you're really going to be showing people, but it can be very helpful in terms of getting your execution down. Because then I can look at it and say, oh, that doesn't look right. Or, oh, there's something really nice element I like here. So then as I go along here, let me zoom out a little bit more. All right, so then I might say, okay, I have a bigger version here. So let's take this helmet and I'll just really go to town on it. I've got some nice little doodles here. This is all I'm asking you to do. Now, if you don't have the transparent paper, again, it can be a little tricky. People will use a light table. But so now I've got this figure here. There's nothing the matter with taking an existing figure like I'm doing. At some point, you'll be able to draw them on your own. But honestly, I was thinking about this demo. I would rather, just for the sake of this, I'd probably on my own do this anyway, right? Just making sure I've got, because I'm not designing a head. I'm trying to design the helmet, and I want to do what's most efficient, right? So I've got the basic layout here. And so now I can start incorporating this design, a little bit more detail. So it's a little bigger. And then trying to figure all this out. So I also want to maintain, I've got the center of this head, right? So you want to make sure you got that going on here. You want to make sure it's a 3-dimensional object. So there's the center. That'll help me as I start putting this this light on here that isn't very aerodynamic, but it's okay. And so basically, I'm going to come up with a design concept. I haven't really spent all that much time on it, but I'm just trying to add a couple features here, right? So, all right, so it's starting to look like a military helmet, which is what I'm not going for, but that's okay. All right, so you should be kind of loose, but this is a very important part of the process because I find that when you're doing this, things just kind of come out of your pores, right? Like things that you might not have thought about, like the light or the air vents and where they are. If you're on a computer, it's a different process, right? So, all right, so I got a little communication device. This isn't feeling very aerodynamic, but so be it, right? I do this chin strap here, what's going on there? Maybe I add graphics to this helmet as I'm doing it too. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Again, this is a very quick drawing activity that I'm doing, but if it works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these images from the orthographic view from you can either start in 3/4, but you want to end up with something like this, where I can then scan this and that will be one of your upcoming assignments. So I do need you to do this right, where things are in proportion, because as again, once you're in the computer, you just don't have that. We can give you a head to work around, but you really, it's a lot more work. I can do in here. What was that? This is I did it in 10 minutes. If I would try to do that in a good 3D modeling software, it would take me a couple hours at least, even if I'm cruising along. But that's not what it's for, right? So the computer is a tool that we're going to be using in this class to execute our concept. So the concept has to be good before we move on. All right, so that is the drawing, the quick little sketch. And you should be able to bang out, dozens of these things as you go along and get to the point where you don't need anything underneath. Last thing I'd say is what you can also do in the design process is, okay, so I have there's things I like and things I don't like, and then you can take this and you can add certain features. So, because you don't want to have to erase the first one. So, you like this, but you feel like maybe it's got to be a little bit more of an aerodynamic aspect to it. And so you can take elements out of here that you like, right? So that's another process that people will do. Now, maybe that you like the profile, maybe you want to just add a little bit to it. So, this is a little bit more pointy. So the idea being that you don't have to throw it away. You can just build on it, right? So, and again, this is what I want to be scanning into the computer, because I'm in love with this proportion. There's something about this proportion. I'm being facetious somewhat, but you should be at the point where you really like the proportion, because it is a mathematical thing. You may not realize this, but this aesthetics is about proportion and mathematics that you're not even aware of, but it works. When you start getting in the computer, you lose it. Now, Daniel had a really good suggestion about using clay. I have some that you can use. If you're interested, I can make it available to you. So there's more ways than drawing. So typically you go from here to a drawing, but I do think the computer modeling is a great way to do it. So I'm not trying to diminish that. I'm just saying there's a process. So the process for us is, once we're satisfied, we may do some little mock-ups, but then we would take this and we would scan it into the computer and do an orthographic view of a side view or a front view, side view, and then we would be able to model that much more efficiently. So we want to get this going, and the more sketches, the better, but you're going to only have to really upload for me one set that we'll take a look at.